Good morning and welcome to our online service, time shared by members, friends, and visitors as a congregation of people in the spirit of the First Parish of Sudbury Unitarian Universalist. This morning we gather to find meaning, to participate in community, and to maybe find some small way to help make our community and our lives a little bit better each and every day. We have chosen to participate remotely as a commitment to one another's health and personal growth. This morning we gather in love with open hearts and minds, endeavoring to create space where all are welcome to bring their whole self, respective beliefs, identities, gladness, and sorrows. I ask you to leave nothing about yourself behind. We love and welcome you just as you are. You will note that there is a button below this window that enables you to receive the order of worship, so please click on it to follow along. Feel free to sing along with the hymns in the comfort of your own home. This morning's opening reading was written by Scott Taylor. Sometimes it can be so loud, hard to hear those voices you once knew so well, voices that knew you so well. It said silence heals us, but silence also holds us together. So pause while we can, while this sweet space gives us room to listen, to hear the echoes of memories that make us whole, the pain of others that reawakens our hearts, the beauty of the wild woods that wants us back. We don't just listen for clarity and guidance, we listen to become larger than oneself. Those voices call us home, are our home. We don't have conversations, we are our conversations. We must remember, friends, who we listen to is whom we become. The message that we resonate with will lead us towards our future. Please join me in saying our unison chalice lighting located in your order of worship. And you're more than welcome to unmute for this, and we can say it together, or you can stay muted. It's your call. Listen to silence. Listen to the wind. Listen to the stars. Hear trees. Dance. Dance to the beat of your neighbor's heart. Dance to the rhythm of your childhood dreams. Come, let us howl our hallelujahs. Come, let us pray and sing and celebrate. Come, let us worship together. So this morning, as you can see, we're gathered in a meeting as opposed to a webinar. And one of the reasons why is because today is our animal blessing, which is if you have little pets at home, no matter what they are or how they behave, it doesn't matter. We're more than welcome to bring them. But before we do that, we're going to have a story for all ages. And it's maybe just an oldie, but a goodie. And it is one that I grew up with and that I love very much. So let us spend some time with Horton. And Horton, here's a who. On the 15th of May in the jungle of Newell, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great joys, when Horton, the elephant, heard a small noise. So Horton stopped splashing. He looked toward the sound. That's funny, thought Horton. There's no one around. Then he heard it again, just a very faint yelp, as if some tiny person were calling for help. And if some tiny person were calling for help, I'll help you, said Horton, but who are you? Where? He looked and he looked. He couldn't see nothing there but a small speck of dust blowing past through the air. I say, murmured Horton, I never heard tell of a small speck of dust that is able to yell. So you know what I think? Why I think that there must be someone on top of that small speck of dust, some sort of a creature or very small size, too small to be seen by an elephant's eyes. Some poor little person who's shaking with fear that he'll blow in the pool. He has no way to steer. I'll just have to save him because, after all, a person's a person, no matter how small. So gently and using the greatest of care, the elephant stretched his great trunk through the air, and he lifted the dust of speck, carried it over, placed it down, safe, on a very soft clover. Humph, humphed a voice. 'Twas a sour kangaroo, and a young kangaroo in her pouch said humph, too. Why, that speck is as small as the head of a pin. A person on that? Why, there never has been. Believe me, said Horton, I tell you sincerely, my ears are quite keen and I heard him quite clearly. I know there's a person down there, and what's more, quite likely there's two, even three, even four, quite likely. A family, for all that we know, a family with children just starting to grow. So please, Horton said, as a favor to me, try not to disturb them. Just please let them be. I think you're a fool, laughed the sour kangaroo. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, me too. You're the biggest blamed fool in the jungle of Newell, and the kangaroos plunged in the cool of the pool. What terrible splashing, the elephant frowned. I can't let my very small persons get drowned. I've got to protect them. I'm bigger than they. So he plucked up the clover and hustled away. Through the high jungle trees, the news quickly spread. He talks to a dust speck. He's out of his head. Just look at him walk with that speck on the flower. And Horton walked worrying almost an hour. Should I put this speck down? Horton thought with alarm. If I do, these small persons may come to great harm. I can't put it down, and I won't. After all, a person's a person, no matter how small. Then Horton stopped walking. The speck voice was talking. The voice was so faint he could just barely hear it. Speak up, please, said Horton. He put his ear near it. My friend, came the voice, your very fine friend. You've helped all us folks on this dust speck no end. You've saved all our houses, our ceilings and floors. You've saved all our churches and grocery stores. You mean, Horton gasped, you have buildings there too? Oh yes, piped the voice, we most certainly do. I know, called the voice, I'm too small to be seen, but I'm mayor of a town that is friendly and clean. Our buildings to you would seem terribly small, but to us who aren't big, they are wonderfully tall. My town is called Whoville, for I am a Who, and we Whos are all thankful and grateful to you. And Horton called back to the mayor of the town, you're safe now, don't worry, I won't let you down. But just as he spoke to the mayor of the speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed up Horton's neck. The Wickersham brothers came shouting, what rot! This elephant's talking to Whos who are not. There aren't any Whos, and they don't have a mayor, and we're going to stop all this nonsense, so there. They snatched Horton's clover, they carried it off to a black-bottom eagle named Vladikoff, a mighty strong eagle of very swift wing, and they said, will you kindly get rid of this thing? And before the poor elephant even could speak, the eagle flew off with the flower in his beak. All that late afternoon and far into the night, that black-bottomed bird flapped his wings in fast flight, while Horton chased after with groans over stones that tattered his toenails and battered his bones, and begged, please don't harm all my little folks who have as much right to live as bigger folks do. But far, far beyond him, the eagle kept flapping, and over his shoulder called back, quit your yapping. I'll fly the night through. I'm a bird. I don't mind it. And I'll hide this tomorrow where you'll never find it. And at 6:56 the next morning, he did it. It sure was a terrible place that he hid it. He let that small clover drop somewhere inside of a great patch of clovers 100 miles wide. Find that, sneered the bird, but I think you will fail. And he left with a flip of the black-bottom tail. I'll find it, cried Horton. I'll find it or bust. I shall find my friends on my small speck of dust. And clover by clover, and with care, he picked up and searched them and called them, are you there? But clover by clover, he found that the one that he sought was just not around. And by noon, poor old Horton, more dead than alive, had picked, searched, and piled up 9,005. Then on through the afternoon, hour after hour, till he found them at last on the 3 millionth flower. My friends, cried the elephant, tell me, do tell, are you safe? Are you sound? Are you whole? Are you well? From down on the speck came the voice of the mayor. We've really had trouble, much more than our share. When that black-bottom birdie let go and we dropped, we landed so hard that our clocks have all stopped. Our teapots are broken, our rocking chairs smashed, and our bicycle tires all blown up when we crashed. So Horton, please, pleaded the voice of the mayor's, will you stick by us, who, while we're making repairs? Of course, Horton answered, of course I will stick. I'll stick by you small folks through thin and through thick. Humph, humphed a voice. For almost 2 days you've run wild and insisted on chatting with persons who never existed. Such carrying on in our peaceable jungle. We've had quite enough of your bellowing bungle. And I'm here to state, snapped the big kangaroo, that your silly nonsensical game is all through. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, me too. With the help with the Wickersham brothers and dozens of Wickersham uncles, Wickersham cousins, and Wickersham in-laws, whose help I've engaged, you're going to be roped, you're going to be caged. And as for your dust speck, ha, that we shall boil in a hot steaming kettle of bezelnut oil. Boil it? Gasped Horton. Oh, that you can't do. It's all full of persons. They'll prove it to you. Mr. Mayor, Horton called. Mr. Mayor, you've got to prove now that you really are there. So call a big meeting, get everyone out, make every who holler, make every who shout, make every who scream. If you don't, every who is going to end up in bezelnut soup. And down on the dust speck, the scared little mayor called a big meeting in Whoville downtown square. And his people cried loudly. They cried out in fear, "We're here, we're here, we're here, we're here." The elephant smiled. That was clear as a bell. You kangaroos surely heard that very well. All I heard, snapped the big kangaroo, was the breeze and the faint sound of wind through the far distant trees. I heard no small voices, and you didn't either. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me neither." "Grab him," they shouted, and cage the big dope. Lasso his stomach with 10 miles of rope. Tie the knots tight so he'll never shake loose. Then dunk him, that dumb speck, in the betel nut juice. Horton fought back with great vigor and vim, but the Wickersham gang was too many for him. They beat him, they mauled him, they started to haul him into his cage. But he managed to call to the mayor, "Don't give up. I believe in you all. A person's a person, no matter how small. And you, very small persons, will not have to die if you make yourself heard. So come on now and try." The mayor grabbed a tom-tom. He started to smack it. And all over Whoville, they whooped up a racket. They rattled tin kettles. They beat on brass pans, on garbage pail tops, and on cranberry cans. They blew on bazookas and blasted great toots, on clarinets, oompas, and boompas, and flutes. Great guts of loud racket rang high through the air. They rattled and shook the whole sky. And the mayor called up through the howling mad hullabaloo, "Hey, Horton, how's this? Is our sound coming through?" And Horton called back, "I can hear you just fine, but the kangaroo's ears aren't as strong as quite as mine. They don't hear a thing. Are you sure all your boys are doing their best? Are all making noise? Are you sure every who down in Whoville is working? Quick, look through your town. Is there anyone shirking?" Through the town rushed the mayor from the east to the west, but everyone seemed to be doing his best and her best. Everyone seemed to be yapping or yipping. Everyone seemed to be beeping or bipping. But it wasn't enough, all this ruckus and roar. He had to find someone to help him make more. He raced through each building. He searched floor to floor. And just as he felt he was getting nowhere and almost about to give up in despair, he suddenly burst through a door, and that mayor discovered one shirker, quite hidden away in the Fairfax apartment J 12J. A very small shirker named Jojo was just standing and bouncing a yo-yo, not making a sound, not a yip, not a chirp. And the mayor rushed inside, and he grabbed the young twerp. And he climbed with the lad up the Eiffelberg Tower. "This," cried the mayor, "is your town's darkest hour, the time for all who have blood that is red to come to the aid of their country," he said. "We've got to make noises in greater amounts, so open your mouth, lad, for every voice counts." Thus he spoke as he climbed. When they got to the top, the lad cleared his voice and he shouted out, "Yop!" And that yop, that one small extra yop, put it over. Finally, at last, from the speck of that clover, their voices were heard. They rang out clear and clean, and the elephant smiled. "Do you see what I mean? They're proved they are persons, no matter how small, and their whole world was saved by the smallest of all." "How true, yes, how true," said the big kangaroo. "And from now on, you know what I'm planning to do? From now on, I'm going to protect them with you." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too. From sun in the summer, from rain when it's fallish, I'm going to protect them, no matter how smallish." So what Horton did was he believed. He believed in someone that he didn't know, and he reached out and helped. And he did whatever he could to do that. So the thing that I take away from this story this morning is really that every voice does count. And if you see something, say something. Let people know. That's the important story for this morning. With that said, we're now going to move into the blessing of the animals. So if you have an animal somewhere near you, or maybe not quite near you, but in your household, and you want to invite them to come and be with us, just go ahead and do that. I'm going to do that too, so give me a second. Hey, Cedar, come here. So, today on this day of blessing, I invite us to remember those beloved pets. Come here. Those close family members who are no longer with us. We engage in a presente as a way to call all of those who have departed to gather with us once again in spirit. Presente means present. After each name is called, we all respond presente. We gather in affirmation of the ways in which we carry forward the purposes and meanings of the lives of those who have gone on before us. Presente. They are here in spirit with us and among us. I invite you to unmute your microphone and join me now in a presente for those whom we have loved and lost, invoking their spirits and their blessings. Please call out the names of your animal companions who have passed, and let us all respond together after each name with presente.
Chupa.
Presente.
Presente.
Matt.
Presente.
Xander.
Presente.
Daisy.
Presente.
Glory.
Presente.
Bridget.
Presente.
Valentina.
Presente.
Moose.
Presente.
Mystique.
Presente.
Presente.
Georgie.
Presente.
Annabelle.
Presente.
Presente.
Valentina.
Presente.
Presente.
Stoven.
Presente.
Presente.
Caleb.
Presente.
Tiger.
Presente.
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 Presente. Winston. Presente.
Valentina.
Presente.
So it sounds like someone has YouTube on in the background.
Presente. Presente.
Presente.
So we can't.
Presente.
Presente.
Presente. Presente.
It's just happening over and over again. Okay, so everybody check and see if they have YouTube on and turn it off. It should be in a browser. So I'm seeing some animals out there.
Come here, you.
There we turn to gallery. Here, come here, Cedar. Come here. Oh.
No, stop
There
it.
you go. Show yourself.
Say hi to everybody. Say hi. I know.
Hi, Cedar.
Hey, Cedar.
Stop it.
Okay. I can't hold you the whole time. Sorry, Guy. For those who are still with us in body, acknowledge and thank and bless our non-human companions and friends. The furry, hairy, feathery, scaly, slimy, slithery friends who help us to see the importance of connection with a larger, more sensate and intuitive world. These beings who teach us how to listen deeply and learn lessons that we struggle to learn through our other means. In some cases, these friends help us to see when we are blind, or help us to care for ourselves if we are unable to, or maybe they love us unconditionally in spite of ourselves. They remind us every day what being present, humble, caring, and fun-loving is, what this world should be all about. Blessing our non-human companions is an important part of honoring their place in our lives. And this morning, I invite you to hold up or point your camera at those who are minding their own business right now, but you want to involve anyways somewhere, or trying to get your attention. Share the name of your familiar and we will bless each as we go. So we're going to do this like we do in coffee hour. If you'd like to share your humble being's name, raise your hand and we'll bless them individually. So whoever's first. Go ahead, Paul.
Scamp.
What's his name?
Scamp.
Scamp.
Oh.
Scamp, may you live a long, happy, and healthy and blessed life, and may you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your person, Paul and Scylla, family, and to humankind. For this, we bless you. I saw
Thank you.
Fran next. Go ahead, Fran.
Smokey and Buster Sharp.
Smokey and Buster Sharp, may you live a long, happy, healthy, and blessed life, and may you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your people, family, and to humankind. Henry. Mimi? Mimi, may you live a long, happy, healthy, and blessed life, and may you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your person, Henry, your family, and to humankind. Pat.
Toby.
Toby, may you live a long, happy, healthy, and blessed life. May you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your person, family, and to humankind. Leslie.
Jasper Jinx.
Jasper Jinx, may you live a long, happy, healthy, and blessed life. And may you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your person, Leslie, family, and to humankind. Maria.
Orange.
Orange, may you live a long, happy, healthy, and blessed life. And may you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your person, family, and to humankind. Joy.
Unmute. Okay. Lily and Coco.
Lily and Coco, may you live a long, happy, healthy, and blessed life. And may you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your people, family, and to humankind. Mark.
Lexi, Bailey, and Dawn.
Lexi, Bailey, and Dawn, may you all live long, happy, healthy, and blessed lives. And may you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your people, to your family, and to humankind. I'm looking. Oh, Jim Gish. I can't hear you.
Hamilton, Pickle, and Bo.
Hamilton, Pickle, and Bo, may you live long, happy, healthy, and blessed lives. And may you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your people, to your family, and to humankind.
Added for
Anyone else? I'm going to do one more to Indy, who is my sister by partnerships, big Burmese mountain dog, who's not with me now, but is with me sometimes. Indy, may you live a long, happy, healthy, and blessed life, and may you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your people, family, and to humankind. And to Max, may you live long, happy, healthy, and blessed life, and may you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your people, family, and to humankind.
Tucker.
Tucker? Tucker, may you live a long, happy, healthy, and blessed life, and may you bring patience, loyalty, and care to your family, friends, to humankind. Let us pray.
Hi, David. This is Rati Garsta.
Spirit of life and love, hear our humble prayer for our animal friends or familiars. We also pray for those animals who are suffering, for animals that are overworked, underfed, and cruelly treated, for all wistful creatures in captivity that beat their wings against bars, for any that are hunted or lost or deserted or frightened or hungry, for all that must be put to death. We entreat for them all thy mercy and pity for those who work with them, We ask a heart of compassion and gentle hands and kindly words. Make us ourselves to be true friends to animals, and so to share the blessings of the merciful. For this we pray. Blessed be. Amen. I invite Michael to share this morning's musical interlude. That's great, right? Move over. Welcome to October. Octuliber. This morning it was 39 degrees when I checked. I was like, wow, here we go. This we have a new theme this month, built upon the soul searching that we did in September with regard to renewal. We will engage this month with the practice of deep listening. It seems sort of obvious, well, to me, what deep listening is all about. Listen deeply. As simple as it sounds, it is an elusive habit to form in our everyday lives. It is kind of like breathing. We do it all the time, but how can we do it mindfully in this very moment? It is like Horton, the elephant, who heard a who. His ability to be aware and still enough to hear that small call for help from that little speck of dust, and his complete commitment to help those in peril made him special. Horton heard and saved the who. I ask you, is it possible that we can be more like Horton in our day-to-day lives? Horton the elephant was able to think beyond his own wants. He knew what was most important, and he followed it relentlessly, even in the face of ridicule, uncertainty, being tied up and put in a cage. And ultimately, he chose to do the right thing. And in doing so, he set an example for others. That is what this month is all about, being more mindful with regard to something that we do all of the time, communicate. On this day, celebrated in Christian communities around the world as a time to honor Francis of Assisi, the saint who died on October 3rd, 1226, coincides with the blessing of the animals. Why, you might wonder. Francis was successful in appealing to humans and animals alike. He believed that we all have souls and that animating spark of the divine within. That is why we welcomed our non-human family members to participate in a blessing this morning, because they are that important to us. I believe that it is important to set our best intentions for the well-being of these furry, feathery, leathery, slithery, maybe slimy loved ones. We do this as a way to acknowledge the important place that they hold in our lives and in the world, the unconditional love that they share with us, and the lessons that they endeavor to teach us each and every day. How many people have their animals teaching them every single day something new. Animals communicate differently than we do. That is for sure. But in no uncertain terms, they truly do communicate with us if we, like Horton, are willing to watch, pursue at times, and listen. My dog Cedar talks to me in his own way all of the time. He's very chatty, sharing what he needs, wants, and what he thinks that I should be doing. He gives me the look when he wants to eat, or if I forgot his special breakfast eggs on the counter. He asks to be invited up on the couch to sit next to me, and he lets me know loudly if someone has arrived in the neighborhood. Cedar and I understand each other mostly, and a little bit more every single day. It takes time, commitment, and care to understand more than to be understood. It is a practice that requires practice. It may even be a better way to be in relationship with one another, to endeavor to understand more than to be understood. If we were all focused on trying to understand one another, this would surely be a very different world. Deep listening is what I consider a multi-directional practice. Whether we are listening to the deepest parts of ourselves or we are trying to listen to those around us as they attempt to communicate with us. They speak, we listen. We do not try to sort out our next conversational offering while they are speaking, because it means that we are only half listening. We wait to think about how we would like to respond after they have spoken, and then invite them to listen. Such conversational exchanges will take time, should not be rushed. It is hard not to rush when we live in a society that bases success on peak performance, getting through efficiently. I continually learn about deep listening from my person, Mindy. She stays focused on communication like no one I have ever seen in my life. Whomever she's listening to in the present moment has her full attention, whether it be her family or clients, Cedar or myself. She is right there, and rarely does she break her connection from being fully engaged. Everything else is secondary, and I find her commitment to staying the conversational course amazing. She has said to me on more than one occasion, maybe even yesterday when we were talking over the phone, "Are you distracted?" And surely it was true. I had been doing this or that when I should have been focusing on our conversation. Clearly, I am still practicing. One might think that listening is an easy thing to do, but it isn't. Distractions exist all around us, from our phones to activities, to our mind wandering when we should be listening. Our brain running off in some other direction could alter the conversation, and the important insights that people are willing and trying to share with us might just be missed. But what is really happening is that we are not honoring those whom we have given our trust to, their time, and their willingness to engage with us. The Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh explained that deep listening simply means listening with compassion. Even if the other person is full of wrong perceptions, discrimination, blaming, judging, and criticizing, you are still capable of sitting quietly and listening without interrupting, without reacting. Because you know that if you can listen like that, the other person will feel enormous relief. You remember that you are listening with only one purpose in mind, to give the other person a chance to express themselves. Because up until now, chances are, no one has taken the time to listen. And what a true gift this is to give. Some things can be hard to bear or cause us fear, so we might pull away, avert our eyes per se. Primates, dogs, and cats are very good at this. When they're facing something they would rather not deal with, they look the other way. There is a saying, explains Thich Nhat Hanh, in Vietnamese: it doesn't cost anything to have loving speech. We only need to choose our words carefully, and we can make other people happy. To use words mindfully and with loving kindness is to practice generosity. Therefore, when we practice right speech, we are traveling along the eightfold path. We can make many people happy just by practicing loving speech. Deep listening, on the other hand, is beyond ego, beyond judgment. It is only concerned with the suffering that is there. That is why on my porch I have a statue of Kuan Yin, considered the one who hears the cries of the world and does not turn away. It is a reminder of the practice of deep listening, which is exemplified by the Bodhisattva Kuan Yin. And if we follow her example and have faith that while listening, you know that only with deep listening can you believe the suffering of the other person. Believe and relieve. Thich Nhat Hanh goes on to share an important affirmation about communication. Aware of the suffering caused by the inability to listen to others, I vow to cultivate loving speech and deep listening in order to bring joy and happiness to others and relieve others of their suffering. This is the kernel of today's lesson. Are we capable of following through? Now let's place this affirmation in context. It was several years ago now, during my time as a chaplain, which is a critical part of the education of a minister. I was meeting for the first time with my supervisor at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Brighton, Sister Mary Catherine, who I ended up affectionately nicknaming the drill sergeant. She was a Franciscan nun. She had been in the military, and she was intimidating, to say the least. My earliest religious experience began by attending Catholic school from kindergarten to second grade. To say that I was afraid of nuns for good reason was an understatement. Sister Mary Catherine, in her black habit and knotted rope belt, made an impression on first sight. I was going to behave, there was no way around it. In that initial interview, she, after sizing me up, placed me at ease and scared me a little bit all at the same time. She told me two things. First, that St. Francis was a Unitarian at heart, and thus so was she. And secondly, that she was going to help me as a Unitarian Universalist to learn how to pray and to understand the importance of prayer. Oh, and lastly, that God does not give us anything that we cannot handle. Personally, I would disagree with Sister Mary Catherine wholeheartedly, but I also think that she was trying to give me some level of courage in that statement. She went on to explain that I would earn this practice of prayer through serving in the NICU, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at Children's Hospital, as well as in the birthing center, kidney dialysis, and during overnights in oncology. Sister Mary Catherine put me on the fast track toward faith and compassion. I do not think that she was wrong in doing this. She broke me open in a way that war brings one to know things that they never want to know. I truly did learn how to pray with each breath that a premature baby would take and then waiting for the next to arrive. With each tear a mother of a stillborn baby would shed, with the dialysis patient who sat next to a friend who did not make it through a treatment, and cancer patients who would die in the night with their grieving family holding hands around their bed. I was triggered more times than I could count during my rounds. My heart broke open repeatedly, and yet it was in this breaking that I found a place of compassion and resilience in the face of suffering, just as Thich Nhat Hanh and St. Francis of Assisi had both taught. I learned to be present to suffering and to pray in the face of it. The saint who loved animals spoke to them, ministered to them, and believed that they had souls and that they could understand us. Francis would literally rescue live animals such as doves, rabbits, and fish that had been caught and were on their way to the market to be sold for food. He would purchase these animals from their owners, at which point he'd speak directly to them, the animals, and admonish them to try to be more clever in the future so that they would not be caught again, and then release them back into the wild unharmed. There's also another story where Francis spoke to a savage wolf that had been terrorizing the Italian town of Gubbio by speaking kindly to it and inviting it in the name of Jesus to live peaceably with the townspeople. Thus the wolf lived in peace with the townsfolk, and they fed the wolf as he lived amongst them until he passed many years later. These stories and other early accounts tell us that Francis had a special way of interacting with animals, that animals sought him out, and that many animals could even understand what he was saying to them. Francis is also considered the patron saint of the environment and ecology. He understood what it meant to be the steward of the land. In addition to his love of nature and love of animals, Francis also preached a radical equality of all human beings, united under the love of God. He celebrated the divine feminine, finding solace and encouragement for his personal mission through his devotion to Mary as the mother of Jesus. He welcomed women such as St. Clare as leaders in his close spiritual circle and sought their insights and wisdom at critical moments of decision in his life. He preached against wealth and materialism, celebrated poverty and humility as holy virtues. He forbade his secular followers from taking up arms, an action which his biographers tell us helped to prevent violence between cities in some parts of feudal Italy. Francis himself served as a high-level peace envoy in the time of the Fifth Crusade, bravely crossing the enemy lines unarmed and dressed only in his simple friar's robe in order to meet directly with the mighty Sultan of Egypt. The prayer that helped me the most during my chaplaincy was one that Francis had prayed, had written, had created. It is plain, it is simple, and it's straightforward, but it is not easy to live fully into. I added the God language a little bit. Spirit of life and love, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, the faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. Grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is dying that we are born to eternal life. I was called to be on this path. It wasn't an easy call to follow. My journey on the road towards wholeness has at times been filled with personal suffering and brokenness. I believed as a child that living a life of challenge and suffering would ultimately bring me enlightenment. That's what I saw. What I now realize is that enlightenment is suffering realized and compassion born from the wounds. As we honor deep listening this month, I invite us to go there, to go to those places that have changed our lives, to truly feel them and to understand the why, and to listen and understand the why of others, almost more importantly than our own. Let us face into the places that we collectively fear and vow to cultivate loving speech and deep listening in order to bring joy and happiness to others and relieve their suffering. Nothing less than this is what I hope for all of us. Let us take a moment in silent reflection, meditation, and prayer. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. First Parish is financially sustained by annual pledges, fundraisers, donations of time and treasure, and with this, our weekly offering. I invite you to be generous if you are able. Please refer to the order of worship for instructions on how to support the work of First Parish digitally. I invite Michael to share our offering music.
What's up, buddy?
It's great, right? We thank you for your generosity this morning. Now is the time for our extinguishing of the chalice. Feel free to join me if you want to unmute. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Good and loving people, our time in worship has come to an end. Let us ponder those words of Thich Nhat Hanh and St. Francis of Assisi. Sanctify yourself and you will sanctify society. We should seek not so much to pray, but to become prayer. What we are looking for is what is looking. Spirit, make me an instrument of thy peace. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. After the postlude, I invite you to stay here and join us in coffee hour, a time of fellowship. So much fun. So we're going to stay here for coffee hour.
Wait, announcements.
Yep. right, so now I'm on the level with all you guys.
Any milestones?
Hang on.
Okay.
Hang on. I'm getting there.
That's what she's doing.
Be patient.
Skipping over.
No, she's not.
Yeah.
Not at all. I always
Going to
I
call
always start
you
with
and
saying
do
something about the
milestones, and we
service
do
a little bit, and then I
announcements.
go on.
All right.
Dear friends, welcome to Online Coffee Hour. A couple of guidelines for this gathering. Please remain muted while another is speaking. Unmute only when you are speaking. Let us begin. During milestones, we bring our concerns and sorrows, as well as our joys and celebrations, into this time together. We mention issues in our own lives and the lives of those we hold dear. Through this sharing, we sustain, support, and reach out to others in our congregation. At this time, please raise your hand and I'll call on those whom I see. Does anyone have a milestone that they would like to share? Bruce. Unmute, Bruce. Unmute, Bruce.
I had my 90th
There you
birthday
go.
Tuesday. I think that's sort of a milestone for having a 90th birthday. And my son and grandson came to join us yesterday, which was nice to have them both here. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. It's nice to have family around. Who else has a milestone this morning? Paul.
I'm trailing behind Bruce. I'll be 78 on Wednesday. I am back in Sudbury from Maine. And I have good news that we're one step closer to doing the renovation, the major renovation on our cottage. We got the permission from the town, as I think we may have mentioned, we got the building permit. But we did also sign with a contractor who will be starting probably sometime in November doing the work. So that's a great relief, be even more of a relief when it's done. So I'll be here most of the time. I may go back and forth. So I will probably be up there and coming back every now and then.
Great, thanks, Paul. Mark.
Keeping with the theme of birthdays, Lily, about a week and a half ago, turned 14, so she's solidly in the teenage years. Her father, me, turned over a new decade, turning 50 on Wednesday.
Right on, man. Who else do we have that would like to share a milestone? Okay. Not seeing anyone raising their hand. I will say that for all that has been shared, both spoken and quietly personal, may we hold these milestones in our heart. May we reach out to one another in love. As a way to stay connected at First Parish and what is happening, we like to share our announcements at the end of worship. Please look to our calendar of online events that is located on the First Parish website, the same place that you watched this sermon on this morning. Our calendar, along with our weekly e-news, is the most up-to-date information that we share. If you are a first-time visitor, which I don't see any today, so maybe I'll just step beyond that part. If you have any friends who would like to be first-time worshipers with us, please invite them. It's really easy for them to jump on and join us. We'd love to see more people, so please invite. I'm also available all the time, pretty much. If you want to spend some time with me or just have a discussion or check in or do whatever, you can email me or call me anytime and I will set an appointment with you and we can meet on Zoom or over the phone, or we could just communicate via text message or email. I'll do it all. So I'm available. Also on Wednesdays, you can join me at 11:30 for guided meditation. Following that at 12 on Wednesdays, there'll be a time set aside for a general check-in. Up to this point, I haven't had many people coming to check in. So if you don't come, I'm probably not gonna keep it going for all of forever. So just note, if you come, I'll do it. And if you don't, I'll probably not. We will now do a time of open announcements in the same manner that we did milestones. If you'd like to share an announcement and you are on video, please just raise your hand and I will call on you to share. Do we have any announcements? Leslie Bryant.
Yeah. Hi. So on October 18th, while Marjorie's away, we're going to have a lay-led service, and it's going to be an open discussion about what you believe and what inspires you. Gail Hardenberg and Ben Reiner will be speaking briefly on this topic, giving their thoughts, and then we're going to open it up to general discussion so that everybody who's in attendance can give their ideas. So it would be great if between now and then you could all kind of be thinking about what you might want to contribute to the discussion. So that's my spiel.
Thank you. I think I saw Aline raise her hand.
Next Sunday, October 11th at 11 a.m., Boston by Foot is giving a Zoom lecture on Boston's Jewish history. It's a combination of lecture and slides, which you would access on your computer, just as we're doing now. But there will be 5 guides on site, on location in Boston, talking about a particular place. I will be at 600 Columbus Avenue talking about Congregation Ohabai Shalom. And it's probably going to be a very good lecture. They usually are. They're wonderful. So perhaps I will see you on Zoom next Sunday morning.
Great. Fran.
Kind of on the theme of animals, I wanted to share, this is kind of funny to do a film review, but Philip and I saw a film last night that someone had recommended to us, and it's called My Octopus Teacher.
Oh, I saw that.
You saw that? It's on
I haven't seen it yet. I saw it on
yeah.
Netflix, I think.
It's great. It's about an hour and a half long. It's about a man who lives in South Africa, he's a diver, and he doesn't use scuba equipment. He just holds his breath for like, I don't know how long. And he goes down and over the course of a whole year of diving every day, I wouldn't even say befriends an octopus, because it's much, much deeper than that. And it's a beautiful, touching film. So if you're up this weekend for even more talking about animal connections, I recommend that. It was on Netflix. There may be other ways to see it too, called My Octopus Teacher.
Awesome. I saw it. I was flipping through Netflix the other day and I saw it and I thought I should watch that.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you have to.
Yeah. It's recommended or required?
It's required for you, Marjorie, Matty.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else? Jim Gish.
Hi, I'd like to put in another plug for the men's group meetings that we have every other Saturday. We had one yesterday, lively discussion. Many of you come, but many of you don't. And I'd like to encourage those who haven't been for a while to please join us. It's a great way to stay connected with the men in the church. And the age range is all the way from Ben at the low end, when we're always happy to have him, to probably Bruce is the senior member now at 90. So we have good discussions, and it's really been good to get together, especially every other week during the pandemic. So the next meeting will be the 17th at 11 a.m. So please join us, give us a try. Thank you.
Virtual donuts will be supplied.
Yeah, right.
Sheila.
On October 17th, we are holding a food drive for Sudbury Food Pantry. After having an abundance of supplies during the spring and summer, they are now in need of food, and they expect that need to continue and most likely increase. Drop-off will be at Sherry Klein's barn from 10 to 4. You can enter the barn, drop your food into labeled boxes, wearing a mask, obviously maintaining social distance. If you are unable to do it between 10 and 4, just send an email to livingourfaith@fpsudbury.org, and we will make arrangements for you to deliver it at another time. or another place even. If you're not comfortable going into the barn, please also email us and we will arrange to have someone there to unload your car. And there was something in the weekly news about it with a list of the supplies that they particularly need. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Announcements? Any commentary about deep listening and this morning's sermon at all? Sure, go ahead, Sarah.
So the timing of the sermon is really uncanny. We just did a professional development afternoon with the teachers called Deep Listening, and this past Wednesday. And it really was, one of the steps that we're taking in becoming an anti-racist district, to really listen to one another, but really listen to our students. I think a lot of times it can be very easy to assume that the grown-ups know what the kids are thinking and feeling, and it's just important to be really listening to them as full humans. And then Horton Hears a Who is also very timely and connected. But one of the books that was shared by our assistant superintendent, she did her doctorate at Harvard through the EDLD program. And one of the courses that she took was Leadership from the Inside Out. And the book that she shared with us was called I Want to Tell You About My Feelings by Mamoru Ito, I think is how you say it. And I was like, maybe I won't share this because you can't actually find it. It's like $125 on eBay or something like that. It's like,
Oh, wow.
It's out of print, but it's a really great book. It seems like a very simple children's book, but it's really about like this metaphor for throwing a ball. Like when I communicate with you, I throw the ball. Do you catch it or do you push it back at me? Do you receive it? Do you send it back? And how do conversations go about your feelings? But I thought it was really such a, interesting thing that this would show up twice in my life this week. But if I find a copy of the book, I'll definitely share it. It's called I Want to Tell You About My Feelings, and Mamoru, Mamoru Ito.
Yeah,
but it's a wonderful kind of inspirational how to listen and communicate well.
So
thank you for
Amazon
this.
right now has one hard copy version for $1.80.
Get it, Marjorie.
All right, I'm buying it right now. It's all your fault.
Yeah. Better than the eBay price.
Gotcha.
Nice to see everybody.
Nice to see you too, Sarah. Paul.
Along the lines of active listening, and in keeping with Jim Gish's invitation to join the men's group, we at the salon that has been meeting ever since we had Gary Kowalski, we meet one Sunday evening a month, and in person it was quite easy to have active listening. We used a talking stick in the middle of the group, and whoever, in order to speak, you had to be holding the stick. And if you weren't holding it, that was the person who was speaking, but everybody else was working, because it is work to listen and not be going off to how I want to respond or what I want to say. Just if you're interested in practicing active listening, we're doing it virtually, which is not quite as easy, but it's still nonetheless. So if you're looking for a place to practice active listening, think of the salon when it comes up next.
Thanks, Paul. Anyone else about the topic? Or, I will be the first one to admit that, and Mindy can back me up on this, that sometimes I wander when I'm trying to actively listen. All of a sudden something moves and I'm like, oh, look, shiny. So it's a challenge to actively listen all the time, or at least to people that are talking to you. And so I honor that ability in people, truly. And I hope I get better. Aline.
Well, in the topics of animals, deep listening, and spirituality, I wanted to recommend a movie called Dean Spanley, Dean Spanley. It should be available on Netflix or on demand. It combines English churchmen, King Charles Spaniels, Imperial Tokai wine, and spirituality. And I can guarantee you that you will be listening more deeply than you ever have by the end of this movie, and you will also be in tears.
So it's called Dean Spiritual?
Dean Spanley, Spanley. Dean as in a churchman in England.
Yeah.
Highly recommended.
Thank you. Anyone else? Maria.
I just wanted to say how much I appreciate the topic, because while we practice deep listening in our chalice circle and the meditation group that I used to meet with in person, we spent some time with that. And so I've practiced it on and off for a number of years, but it's something that it was great to be reminded that, oh yeah, that's an important thing to remember to do. And I also found myself thinking about, well, how do I deep listen to Trump supporters, rather than just dismissing, giving them the benefit of the humanity. So I found it all very interesting, and I, as always, appreciate your sermons to teach or to help me remember, so that I can practice myself. Thank you.
I think that what you're saying is very valuable, because it's not always easy to listen to people we love. It's even harder to listen to people that we can't relate to. And I didn't mention the whole, Trump having COVID, and I actually, you never know how a person gets to where they get in their life. Like, you just don't know that journey, right? You haven't walked that walk with them. And, I can still feel compassion for anyone who's sick and not feeling well. And in that, you don't know how his followers got to where they got, right? We don't know how they got there, but they got there. And you can only hope that they find a place of compassion in their lives for other people. And that, if I were to pray for them, which I would, that would be it, a prayer of compassion, that they find a way to get to a better place in their lives. They don't even probably know that they're hurting in the way that they are. So that's what I pray on a daily. Jim.
So I'm thinking about this, kind of during your message and as we're talking about it now, and I'm certainly challenged by this. I know Christy would agree, because this is a daily topic of conversation. But I think that many of us are faced with being in a work environment which is kind of rapid fire.
Yeah.
And if you're in an engineering discipline or software or whatever, where you're in a group of people and the ideas are flowing really rapidly and people are reacting really rapidly, and it's minds are racing and ideas are coming out and criticism is emerging and whatever, and it's just kind of the way of the work world. And then you come home and you need to turn that off. And I'm certainly challenged with that. But I was also thinking about in context of work, and all of our meetings are by Zoom. In fact, ours have been like that for the past 2 years at work. And initially, people were keeping their cameras on, so you could see who was talking, and it was a lot easier to focus on what someone was saying. And now, the meetings that I attend, I gave a presentation last week, and there were 50 people there, and no one had their camera on. So I'm talking to the void. And occasionally a chat message would come through, which I wouldn't even see because I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on the slides and stuff that I'm presenting. And then somebody would speak up. But in my daily staff meetings, I find it's very easy to get distracted when somebody's talking, especially when I'm not particularly interested in the topic, because I don't see people's faces anymore. And so I'm thinking, I'm gonna request that people turn on the cameras, because that gives you, the opportunity to kind of look at them, virtually while they're talking. But it's a real challenge going from work to home, where the environments are very different.
Agreed. Go ahead, Maria.
Well, I had a question that lends me. I was wondering when I was listening to you speak this week, if you actually have our pictures up, and because I noticed a slightly different animation, and maybe it was because of your dog being there or something, but I wondered if you had all our pictures up and you were actually speaking to our faces versus some other kind of a screen.
That's a good question. My dog is always with me, by the way. I couldn't get him away from me if I tried. So, I mean, he's literally right here now. So it's not him specifically. It is different to be in a meeting than it is to be in a webinar. A webinar enables me to focus on what I'm saying, where here I'm like, oh, Fran's drinking her coffee. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I get distracted by stuff.
But you can't see us. You
Right,
can't see us when you're talking.
I can't see you when I'm talking. And today with I love to do children's stories. Like, it's one of my favorite things to do, but I don't want to monopolize it. And also I don't want to burn people out on me being all like goofy with my children's stories. So that kind of raises my energy in a different way. So that's kind of a response to that. And I got to tell you that being in Zoom versus being face-to-face in the sanctuary is hugely different. I miss being in the sanctuary, seeing your faces and being able to say, randomly a question like, have you ever thought about this? Or have you thought about that? When I do that in a webinar, it's like, I can do it, but I don't get the feedback that I would in person. So hopefully that gives you a better sense of my feelings about it.
Well, it also tells us that if you're actually looking at our pictures and watching us, that maybe we want to be more, appear to be more attentive at least.
Don't be napping.
We're scratching our head.
I know, right? No, I'm really good with people just being chill, because that's the way you are sometimes, in worship, people are chill. I've had people fall asleep in worship before. So it's like, and preaching class back in the day, my preaching teacher used to say to me, yours is not, you're going to have a hard time keeping people not drifting with your voice, because your voice is such that it's very soothing. And so they may be paying less attention to what you're saying and closing their eyes and feeling that that tone of your voice that is very calming. So that, that was sort of my constructive feedback about my voice. So I could change it up a little bit. Just kidding. Anyways, so hopefully that gives you a little insight. Anything else for anybody? And on any topic, it doesn't really matter. I just want to make sure that you all get your chance. Fran.
I was just going to say, your voice is the reason that those Wednesday guided meditations are so good, because you have the right kind of voice for that. Not the kind where you fall asleep listening, but the kind where it's soothing and it lets you go off to a different place. And so I really like your voice in that regard.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that your voice really is an asset in the guided meditation.
Yeah, I'm glad that's the case.
And you're preaching too.
Thank you. Thank you. It really feels good to hear those kinds of things, because sometimes I don't, you never hear the good stuff. You always hear sort of like, could you just be a little bit more like ... So that's great to hear that it's good.
I had
Any-
another thought about the
Sure.
the deep listening.
Yep.
One of the things in the meditation group, again, I haven't been in person there for a while, but I was for many years, was that the mindfulness meditation group, we go through a series of I don't even know what you call them, affirmations maybe, may I, and then it's
Meta.
named person families, but there's a whole section about difficult people, which I'd kind of forgotten about until we were talking about this, because that's where it seems to me where you can include Trump supporters, for instance.
Yeah.
And you send them, may they be happy, may they be healthy, may they be at ease, may they be loved and be loved. That's part of what that is. And it just occurred to me that that was something that perhaps I can add back into my daily meditation.
It helps. And you know, the thing about it, it's not just that it helps them, it helps you in your relationship towards them. It's like you're almost sending really positive, good energy to people in a way, not to change them, but in a way to change yourself about them.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, a way of putting your intention and all your energy on something positive rather than it's not feeding the wolf. It's or feeding the wolf in the world by sending all these negative thoughts to, it's sending positive, constructive, and changing the focus of your energy. And I think I know this sounds la-di-da, but I have a feeling that if more of us were sending positive, focusing our energy in a positive manner, that might actually change something. I won't go much further because you'll think I'm totally nuts, but I think there's maybe something there.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but I'd like to suggest people read a 2016 Psychology Today article on why Trump supporters still support him. And that was back in the middle of the campaign. And it's really very illuminating.
What were some of the highlights?
Well, it talked about the differences between the thought processes of liberals versus conservatives. It talked about, let me see if I can remember, there were like 3 or 4 major points, and I was reading this at midnight, so they didn't stick very well, but I'm going to go back and read it. Talked about the people that buy some of the arguments often that the Trump campaign puts out are those that don't recognize when they do not have enough knowledge to make an accurate assessment of the facts. So they don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they are lacking in certain abilities, for example, to really analyze things. It was really, really very interesting. It was a very, very different twist on things than I've read before. I'll see if I can.
Were they talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect, Jim?
Yes, they were. Thank
Okay.
you. I couldn't have remembered that if you paid me.
I
Very
have Facebook friends who are Trump supporters, as are members of my family. And I was engaged in a discussion with 2 of them a while back, and Val Tratnik commented that she thought I was talking to Russian bots. And I said, no, one of them is my cousin and one's a friend in South Carolina. But they firmly believe that he is doing a good job. They firmly believe in his policies. They see him as an imperfect person, but as devout Christians, they are willing to accept that because God uses imperfect people to accomplish his goals. They are willing to overlook many, many, many things because they support making abortion illegal. And I don't know where the Republican Party would be these days if it wasn't for the issue of abortion. But that is the biggest motivator for many, many, many of his supporters, including many of the evangelicals. They love him. They think he is doing a great job, and they support him all the way.
Right. The title of the article is The Psychology Behind Donald Trump's Unwavering Support. It was September 13th, 2016.
Great, thank you, Jim.
Oh, and
Fran?
also the other interesting aspect was what hypersensitivity to threat. And they talked about and terror management theory. It's very interesting.
Cool. I think Fran had her hand up.
I was just going to say that, you know, I'm thinking about what Jim said and talking about, and Maria talking about chalice circles and deep listening. And I find it relatively easy to have conversations where I can try my very best to listen deeply with people that are agreeing to do that with me. You know, so like they've come to the table and said, hey, I agree with you that deep listening is a good thing. We're not going to do interrupting. We're going to be respectful, et cetera, et cetera. But out in the world, aside from UU circles, when do you ever run into that where people say, I mean, some of my best friends are people that talk over me in conversation. It's like, I don't think they really buy the whole thing about deep listening. So that's to me the biggest challenge, you know, and if you get into talking about a really heated topic like political beliefs, I want to say, forget it. That's not very hopeful on my part, but you know, really, we're going to have a deep listening conversation. And even though they're yelling that we're idiots and, you know, liberal, whatever they call us, snowflakes and all that, like there just isn't the basis for a deep listening conversation in that.
No, it's pointless. It's absolutely pointless, and it makes you feel bad.
Marjorie, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. In my sermon, I talked about a level of trust that you have to have with someone to do this. And we can, you know, we know that we have a small circle of people that we can do this with, but we can always add one more person to that circle. But you do have to come to a place of trust around it and to actually say, you know, this is something that I want to do with you because I care about you and I want to understand you and I want to give you my full attention. And in return, I would love for us to collaborate on that, to be able to do that for one another. So it's a very intentional experience. But as Thich Nhat Hanh said, which I really appreciate, it's like some people never get listened to in their entire life. So just giving your gift to them of listening is huge. And they may not give it back. And in some ways, we need to be okay with that in some circumstances. But how different might the world be if we gave that gift to one another? It may be an awakening for someone. That's my opinion. Sheila Murphy was holding her hand out.
Yeah, I do a lot of phone banking these days. I phone bank every day for various campaigns, but I also belong to a, excuse me, Wide Awake Sangha at Cambridge Insight Meditation Center. And people there have been doing something that's called deep canvassing, which is sort of what the name would suggest, canvassing voters in mostly swing states and doing deep listening. So sometimes a call, I mean, if you do phone banking, you know, you're lucky if you talk to somebody for 2 minutes. But in these calls, I'm actually going to sign up for it. I haven't done it yet, but in these calls, you might talk to somebody for 20 minutes. The outreach is not to Trump supporters, but rather to people, working class communities, communities of color, people who really don't get listened to at all, ever. So if someone is, if you're interested in applying deep listening to your political work and your activism, that might be a way to do it. And if you want more information, it's actually been this sort of program has been going on for, I don't know, since 2017 maybe. And it's actually, there's been some studies that have showed that just on a practical and tactical level, that it's actually quite effective. So if you're interested in learning more about it, or just talking about it, just send me an email or give me a call and I'll be happy to share whatever resources I have.
Would you be willing to do, I know you've been doing a ton and I just want to say that up front. Just send a link in the e-news
Sure.
to the
I'll put it in
information
Friday's e-news.
because then Ben can have it and it'll be there. So
I'll even try to make the deadline this week.
woo! Anyone else?
Thanks, Sheila and Marjorie.
Sure, Fran. I thank you for being here today and for listening, deep listening, and your commitment to that, and your commitment to First Parish. You know, I'm worried about people who are not reaching out and connecting on Sundays. So if you see people that are not here, please call them and invite them to come back because I miss them and I miss seeing them. So I'm sure you do as well. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. It looks gorgeous out there, even though it was 39 degrees this morning. And I hope that you get some time outside and that that joy comes into your life, that it brings you to places that you need, and that you feel thankful and heartful in your life. And I think about you all the time and I send you much, much love. So be well, be safe, and give it your best.
You too.
Peace and love.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good week.